I'm not even gonna tell you how late at night it is right now while I'm filming. You don't need to worry about that. That's for me to know and for you. Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another video here on my channel. Hope you guys are doing well. I am night filming today, as you can see. It's a little dark. How's everybody doing? Happy September. It's finally cold. I am just thriving. I can feel my energy returning. My strength is back. It's time for the Burr months. I'm so excited. I feel like where we're at in the originals right now is like perfect timing. Everything's real spooky. There's lots of magic going on. So let's just get right into it, because if you remember from last time, Elijah's locked in the crypt right now. We need to go talk about that. So yeah, my baby is chained up in the crypt, just like not doing well. It's so bad. So he's dreaming and he thinks that he's chasing Hope around in an abandoned house, except no, it's actually Tatya. So Nina Dobrev jump scare just out of nowhere. He wakes up and remembers that he's actually with Esther, and she is so terrible to him. She's like looming over him and being creepy. And she explains, you know, I'm gonna put you in the body of a witch and you'll finally be happy, because as long as you're a vampire, you're always gonna kill the people you love. We get a vampire face moment from him. He's so hot. He's so hot. She tells him that she knows more about his secrets than he does, and it's time to show him the truth about what happened to Tatya. We go to a flashback of them in the Viking village on Samhain. We have seen this before. I'm pretty sure we saw it in TVD. I think we saw it in TVD. Where it's like the fire scene where like Klaus and Tatya are like dancing and having fun together, but she likes Elijah, so she like goes to him and is like, I actually want to be with you, like you're the brother that I pick. It's really giving medieval Catherine Pierce, right? Like it's not gonna go well for anybody involved. And it reminded me of the ridiculous chemistry that Daniel and Nina have. Good Lord, I would have been so okay with Elijah and Elena, like. And then he like sucks out of the flashback and turns to Esther and is like, what are you trying to get me to admit? You killed her. I remember that. And she's basically just like, oh baby, that's not what happened. Back at the cabin, Cole and Cammy are helping with Davina, and Cole is being real suspicious and obnoxious where Klaus is concerned. Like he's not being subtle about the fact that he's secretly his little brother. Klaus gives Cammy the keys and is like, go get the car so that we can take Davina to the hospital. Except remember, Michael is in the trunk of the car alive. Yeah, turns out Klaus recognized Cole, like immediately upon hearing his annoying little voice. And he's the worst about it. Cole just gives him a little bow and is like, hello, brother. They talk and Cole pisses him off. And so then Klaus is like, Cammy, I've changed my mind. I am going to kill him. Bring me the steak. Except Michael took her, so she doesn't come back. And now Cammy's missing. So Klaus calls Elijah, but obviously he's kidnapped, so he didn't answer the phone. Cole refuses to wake up Davina, meaning that Klaus is on his own. Once they're alone in the house, Cole's being really gentle with Davina. He ignores Finn's call and then very quickly like answers the second one, because Finn does like the witchy nuke your brain spell on him to be like, I know you're ignoring me. I can't with these guys. Finn tells him that he has to kill Davina before she figures out the unlinking spell situation, because otherwise it's gonna mess up Esther's plans. Michael didn't eat Cammy. He's just planning to use her as bait. She points out how stupid it is that Michael's whole thing is that he hates Klaus for having been fathered by another man, which was in no way Klaus's fault. He kind of brushes her off and is like, you don't get it. It's more complicated than that. Yeah, my son's an abomination. And then they walk up on like a little like throwdown party in the woods, and he eats everybody. Cole starts messing with Davina's spell to like screw up the unlinking spell so that he doesn't have to kill her. That wakes her up though, and then she realizes that Michael and the stake are gone. She realizes that her bracelet isn't working but doesn't clock that Cole is the one that did it right away. And she's like, I have to just finish my spell to make sure my friends are safe if Klaus dies. Haley's starting to get a little nervous since she can't find Elijah. She also can't find Ollie, so Marcel gets involved and they start looking together. Elijah's starting to get hungry because he's been chained up and, you know, bloodlet and tortured for like a day and a half now at this point, almost 2 days. So he's not doing great. And she basically says to him, you know, it's so disgusting that you eat other people. Like, that's so gross. I can't believe you do that. And it's like, girl, you turn them into vampires. We cut to a flashback of Klaus waking up naked in the woods after a werewolf feed where he just tore 6 people apart violently. He's so scared and so confused. Like, back in the beginning, he used to be like, why do I keep turning into a wolf and eating people? What's wrong with me? I don't want to be like this. And Elijah is there to like get him dressed and clean him up and be like, it's okay, brother. No matter what happens, no matter what you turn into, I will always love you. They do the little forehead touch here while Elijah warns him that Michael knows that he must not be his son anymore. So he's real angry and Klaus is in more danger than before. And then Tatya walks up and sees the bodies and is like, oh my God, and runs away. Back in the present, Elijah turns to Esther and is like, yeah, okay, big deal. I compelled her to forget. And Esther's like, baby, you'd only been a vampire for a few days. You didn't know how to compel people yet. He's like, no, absolutely not. I would never have hurt Tatya. You killed her. And Esther is like, baby, that's not what happened. That's just not what happened. And then we see a flashback of him chasing Tatya and stopping her and being like, look, yes, I'm a vampire. No, I'm not a monster. I would never hurt you. Oh my God, never. And then he starts getting vampire face because she cut her hand and she hits him. So he's like, oh no, I'm gonna bite you. He tells her to run away. She runs. He chases her and eats her. He swears though that Esther is lying and he absolutely did not kill her. There's just no way that would have happened. And Esther is like, honey, you don't have to believe me. You just have to remember. And then she like witch magics him again, so he goes back into his head. Klaus tracks Cammy through the woods and finds that party. Michael didn't eat all of them. He ate probably a couple of them, and then he compelled them to stand there with their scary people in the woods masks on and like taunt Klaus until he attacks them, so he ends up like killing all these people. Davina starts her spell and Cole is like, here baby, let me help. And she's like, no. And then he just like proves that he's really good at magic. And I was like, oh Lord help me, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough to resist this man being a witch. I can't do it. Michael tells Cammy in the little abandoned building that they're waiting out in that he was actually thrilled when Klaus was born because Klaus had the eyes of a warrior and he was like, oh hell yes, I'm gonna have a good strong son. And then he grew up and he was weak and useless. And so he grew to hate him and I was just like, Jesus Christ. And then he says like, and also he killed my wife and took my family away from me, so now I can never forgive him. And Cammy's basically just like, dude, don't you get that like you've also kind of taken the family away from yourself? Like, you're evil. Of course they don't want to be with you anymore. What the hell? He does end up biting her, even though he said he wasn't going to, so Cammy gets bitten. In the woods, Klaus has killed everybody at that party. Haley calls him to be like, your brother is missing. And he's like, yeah, that's very upsetting. I will deal with it when I get home, because he has to go after Cammy and Michael because Cammy is his weakness. Cole and Davina start the spell and it is not working because he screwed with the spell, remember? So he made it so that it would not work. She kind of gets annoyed and is like, just stop chanting and let me channel you instead. But when she snatches his hands, she gets little memory flashes of him screwing up the spell and messing with her bracelet. The magic around this time starts getting real weird and different. It goes like the shots get all choppy and there's like a color filter, like a blurry yellow color filter over it. And we hear like the spirit sound noises that we're used to, but it's like, oh, there's magic happening. Oh my God, magic happening. And then it goes back to like normal shots. I kind of like it. It was a little jarring because they'd never done it before and it's not something we ever saw on TVD. So I was like, oh, this is how we're doing this now. Okay, I'm here. I'm seeing it. That's fine. So they fight and it's very fun. Cole gives in first and is like, look, it was either kill you or kill the spell. So I didn't want to kill you, Davina, so I didn't. She wants to know how the hell he deactivated her bracelet, and he's like, oh, I'm very good at creating and destroying dark objects, and I would be more than happy to show you how, baby. So he's getting real flirty, and she's basically just like, fine. In the flashbacks, we get confirmation that Elijah did in fact kill Tatia. Then he brought her dead body to Esther and went, Mom, help me. So Esther took the body into the house, and he has that memory, but he always thought it meant Esther killed her. And she basically said to him, go get cleaned up and then no one will know what happened. I will make it go away and no one will know it was you. So then that like internalized in Elijah, and that is the reason why he's always in like the perfectly clean suits and he's so meticulous about there being no blood on his hands, because as long as he doesn't see it, he doesn't have to think about it, and it's like he's not evil. He's not evil, he's just a vampire, and they are predators. Like, I don't... He has a bit of a panic attack over this, as you can imagine, and he's like, that can't be true. I've been evil this whole time? What the hell? And like, you know, identity crisis. Esther's egging him on to become mortal because she's like, if you're in a witch body, you can be with Haley and you can have kids and you can get married and life can be normal and you'll die when you're supposed to. Wouldn't that be great? He looks up at her and is like, you will not break me. And she's like, oh baby, you're already broken. I'm gonna fix you. She's so scary. I love Lenore. Listen to me very carefully when I say this to you. Davina wants to drain the magic from the white oak stake so that it won't work on Klaus and they won't be able to kill him with it. And Cole is like, no, you can't drain all of that. Even together, it would be too much for us. Instead, we should just disable it for a little while. I'm sorry, but siphons are bad, siphons are evil. Shut the frick up. Klaus finds Cammy and Michael and realizes that Cammy has been bitten and is like, oh, I'm about to enter feral mode. They start fighting. Meanwhile, Davina and Cole are outside. Like, they pull up to the warehouse. She doesn't trust him to help her. And he's like, oh my God, I'm not gonna go against you again. Here, channel my power. And once again, we knew about channeling in TVD. And I just think it's really funny that sometimes it's okay to share power. Sometimes it's cool and neat and interesting and enjoyable. And then other times, you're the bad guy. Klaus gets stabbed with the white oak stake right as they start doing the spell to disable it. He starts desiccating in front of Cammy's eyes. She's screaming, he's gasping in pain. Michael is like, yes, I'm killing him finally. But Michael is like, why aren't you catching on fire? You're supposed to be catching on fire. Catch on fire! And he realizes that somebody must be fricking up the spell. Davina is struggling because it is a very dangerous, very powerful spell that they are doing. Cole is like, I got you, baby. Just hold on to me. Nothing's gonna happen. I'm strong enough for both of us. So hot. Michael comes in and is like, you two are doing this? What the hell? Michael attacks her, and so she breaks the connection. Cole is still chanting, and he turns to like square up at Michael, still chanting, like doing the spell. He's like, I'll freaking punch you in the face, man. So Michael slaps him into the wall because Cole is just a witch. But it was so hot. It was such king behavior right there. Michael ends up biting Davina, which breaks the spell. So then Klaus is gonna catch on fire. But thankfully, Cammy like gets the stake out of his chest like just in time. Michael attacks Cammy then because he's pissed, and then Marcel shows up just in time and saves her. Michael's like, what the hell? There's so many idiots in this warehouse. I can't wait to kill all of you. And then Haley shows up, wraps a chain around Michael's neck and yanks. This means that Michael's gonna have to face all of them at once. Klaus is like, come on, let's freaking go, let's do it. And Michael, being the coward that he is like, oh my God, Niklaus, when are you gonna learn? Having people around you doesn't make you strong. It makes you weak. I'll face you when you're ready to come after me on your own. Wimpy, 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 coward behavior. No. Oh, we get a cute moment of Davina waking Cole up and checking on him. Marcel shows up and is like, young lady, you are lucky to be alive. What do you think you were doing here today? And she's like, oh my God, you're not my dad. You're not in charge of me. And he is so protective and cute. It's adorable. After Marcel leaves, he's basically just like, stay here and wait for me. I'll be out in a second. And we are not done talking about this. And then he storms off. Cole is like, you should not let him talk to you like that. Davina's like, don't talk to me at all. I'm still mad at you. They leave together with the steak after she tells him that he owes her and he's gonna have to help her get even now. Cammy and Klaus are having a hot and sexy moment checking up on each other's wounds. Like, oh my God. She now feels guilty for having ever tried to convince him not to kill Michael. She's like, you're right, your dad sucks and you should murder him. I'll help next time. They all regroup and need to go after Elijah now. In the crypt, Elijah's getting weaker and weaker. He's not doing well. I need everyone to know that Hosier starts playing in the background. So I knew we were in for a treat, and I was correct. Kaylee shows up and bites Esther, knocking her out, and then she goes over to Elijah and starts like taking him out of his chains, and he just like melts in her arms, like he's so relieved that she's come to get him. And then it gets really wild. Haley is like, oh my God, you're so weak. You need blood. She's like, here, go ahead. And he's like, no, I crave you. My hunger could overwhelm me and I could kill you. She grabs his face and is like, I'm not afraid. And then they kiss. And then she sits back and pulls her hair off her neck and is like, go ahead. I was like, what? I'm not God's strongest soldier. Listen, I love nothing more than a blood sharing scene. And we never get to see Elijah like this. I was on the ground. I was deceased. I couldn't breathe. And then we cut to Esther alive and well, standing over Elijah's unconscious body with Finn, so he's still dreaming. Okay, we open this one with a flashback of Norway. Long time ago. Viking timeline. We're in Norway though. There's a woman praying with a rosary in the middle of a snowstorm. Another woman comes into the house with her. She has a blonde wig on. It is terrible. Tragically bad blonde wig. The woman with the rosary is named Dahlia. She's a witch. The other woman is Esther, and she says, please, sister, I want to have children. Can you help me? Remember Ollie, my least favorite werewolf? He is being tortured for being a traitor, and now they're all going to kill him later on that night at midnight. Elijah's still out cold dreaming, and Esther gives him a little speech about how when he was a little boy, he was innocent and sweet. And she loved him so much. And now he's evil and despicable and disgusting. And she would do anything to have him be innocent and sweet again. So she yanks his head back and cuts his throat and does another spell on his blood. Klaus comes home covered in blood, saying that he interrogated some witches and it went really well. Haley obviously wants to come help him, and he's like, no, you can't, because if Esther figures it out, like, she'll use you against us, and like, I can't focus on saving him if I also need to focus on saving you, right? He looks real hot in this scene. I'm just gonna tell you. Marcel and Gia were also looking for Elijah, but since Klaus took over, now they can't really do anything, so they team up with Haley to save Oliver instead. She asks them to just distract Finn for her so that she can go get Ollie from the wolves, because she is still technically their alpha, so they should listen to her and just let him go. Finn and Cammy meet up, and he's getting a little weird and a little too flirty for her comfort. Like, he just like sneaks up on her at the bar, you know, not in a work setting. And she's like, this is so unprofessional. And also, like, it's not really up to you. Like, leave me alone. And then when he like drops the shop talk and tries to just like sit with her, he orders her favorite drink. And she's like, ooh, red flag. I never told you I even liked that. I gotta go. And she runs. Klaus digs up Esther's body and prepares to burn the coffin. Elijah shows up and stops him, leading him into the ruined manor house. It's a vision though, and Klaus sees through it, so then Esther shows up for real. She promises that once she's fixed Elijah, she'll be more than happy to give him back to Klaus. She says that she knows that she's lied in the past, but she really is telling them the truth now, and her plan is to turn Elijah into the man he was meant to be, and then she's gonna do the same thing to Klaus. Listen, I don't agree with her 90% of the time. Like, this whole thing is silly, but she does remind him that he's the reason why he doesn't have a family, because even when things were good with Elijah and Rebecca, he still ruined it, because he always ruins everything. And I was like, he refuses, saying that she's a hypocrite, which she is, and he's like, I don't want anything from you. I don't want to be with you at all. Leave us alone. Ooh, he also tells her that she's no better than Michael, and then that reveals to her that Michael is back and Cole has been lying about it, and she is very upset and very scared. We cut to Cammy in her little secret room looking through her creature book where she has like all the names of everybody in it, and she finds Vincent's name. Marcel comes in and catches her and is like, oh, it is so much worse than that. You have actually been talking to Finn Michelson, Klaus's older brother, this whole time. So, surprise. Obviously, he doesn't want her to ever see Finn again. And she's like, but he kind of likes me a little bit. I think I have to see him. I have to get more information. Esther switches up real fast and is like, okay, Klaus, if your father's really back, you have to help me with him. And Klaus laughs in her face. He's like, are you serious right now? We get some flashbacks of him like being a good dad when they were younger, and it's like, okay, cool. He also, you know, stabbed Klaus to a tree, among other things, so I just won't be forgiving him. No. We get our first Freya clip too. We see her as a little girl with Finn, and that is to like imply that Freya dying was the reason why Michael went crazy. Esther promises that she only wants peace and she will kill Michael herself if she has to. Klaus is like, ooh, the only thing is I've never needed help when it comes to killing parents. Then she dangles the truth about his werewolf dad to him, which is just awful. Like, ugh. Haley's out in the woods looking for the wolves and gets an arrow shot at her, and then this man pops out of the woods and is like, I was gonna kill you. Why are you on my land, half vampire evil thing? And then Jackson shows up and is like, hold on, Ansel, that's my friend Haley. She was gonna be my wife. Don't kill her. Remember him? He's back. Go back to Esther and Klaus. She is now saying, I know you killed me because I never told you about your real dad. Like, that's why you killed me. That's what it was. That's what started this whole thing. He says, and I quote, or maybe I just hate that I'm a product of some whore's lechery. And she slaps the shit out of him. Just like, whoop. She tells him that she loved his father and it was like a real relationship, because Michael, after Freya died from the plague, he got real distant and weird and awful. And so like they grew apart, and then she fell in love with Klaus's dad. Kind of on accident, kind of on purpose, but like she did love him. It was a real relationship. And Klaus has no idea what he's talking about, saying it was just a fling. Jackson tells us that he was kidnapped by Francesca, and then when he would not say that she was his alpha, he was beaten by her brothers and brought out to the bayou and left. And then he came back and found out that Hope was dead and Haley had turned into a hybrid, and he was so distraught that instead of being like, I'm alive and still here, he just left and just wandered around for a while being sad, and then met Ansel. And Ansel's like a very wise werewolf who's like trained in the old ways, and so he's been teaching Jackson. He doesn't want to help save Ollie from the witches because Ollie betrayed them and hurt the pack, and Haley's like, I get that, but he was trying to make up for it. And Jackson's like, yeah, too bad, I don't care. Because he's like kind of locked into his emo boy days right now. Like, he's not doing great. Ansel, on the other hand, though, agrees to go with Haley because he doesn't believe in seeing wolves get hurt. Klaus listens to Esther explain all this BS about his dad, and he's like, if he was so cool, then why didn't he take me with him? Like, why didn't he want me if he was so amazing and awesome? Esther admits that she's the reason why his dad didn't take him, because she refused, because she knew that if Michael found out, then he would kill all of them. And it's like, oh, okay, so you want to go back to when you said Michael was a good dad? Like, what the hell? Marcel is still in the secret room with Cammy, trying to get her to not go after Finn anymore, but then Haley calls and is like, I need help with this. I need a distraction right now. So Marcel is like, okay, I do actually have a plan. Cammy, you're gonna get to do what you want. Esther gives us even more Michelson lore and says that Klaus being born actually made them a family again, because when she got pregnant, she basically said to Michael, like, surprise, we're having another baby. And then when Klaus was born, he loved him so much because remember, Michael said, like, Klaus had warrior's eyes. So he was so excited to have a new son and, like, a fresh start. And that's why they were all happy again. They had more children, big happy family. Then he found out, you know, he wasn't his kid and grew to hate him. So it's very complex. But now she promises Klaus that what she wants to do for him is put him in a werewolf body. And then that way he can start over and get to be a wolf like he always wanted and have a family and children and live his life. And Klaus is like, what? So he refuses, and then she attacks him and knocks him out. And then we see Klaus having a vision of finding his Viking dad on a pike, dead after Michael had killed him. And the dad, ladies and gentlemen, is Ansel. Like, I saw it coming, but I still screamed because remember, the other side collapsed a little while ago. So the spirits were loose. So I was like, oh hell, either he escaped or Esther plucked him out as things were imploding. This is crazy. Klaus wakes up from the vision and Esther's just waiting with him, and she's like, okay, so Elijah is at this crypt. He's uncloaked. Feel free to go get him. He's got a decision to make now, and so do you. She promises that she told the truth, and now it's just up to him whether or not he wants to believe her. Cammy goes to the bar to meet Finn. Marcel and Gia are outside keeping an eye on her. She's so not good at lying. Like, I can't stand, it's like my least favorite thing when people are like, I can do it, I can pretend this, and then they get into the situation and they're intentionally like playing it like they've never lied before in their lives. They talk a little and she starts kind of like prying with him a little bit, like asking about his siblings and his parents because he's mentioned them, but he never gave her details. And he's like, didn't you just get upset with me for pushing boundaries? Like, what's going on? Marcel starts to step in to like help her, but then he gets attacked out in the street. Gia runs away after Marcel tells her to run, so he's fighting them alone. Cammy realizes that Finn's getting suspicious and she starts to get nervous, but then she like plays up the flirting a little bit, and he ends up like reaching across the table and taking her hand and being like, oh, I definitely think I could help you release your bad coping mechanisms. Like, I myself have had destructive behavior patterns in the past, and I just think it's funny that he's like falling for Cammy when his soulmate was Sage. No, he should be so annoyed with Cammy. She should get on his nerves. He should think she's too good. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Haley and Ansel get to Ollie and save him just as the wolves come rushing in. Ansel sends her off and goes out to handle it himself. Gia comes back to help Marcel, but gets bitten in the process. Aiden and the other wolves stop Haley and Ollie and are like, we're gonna kill you for this, you traitors. And Ollie gives a whole speech where he's like, why are you guys being so freaking dumb? This is your alpha. And like, yeah, I know that I messed up, but I messed up trying to protect us. Like, now you're just a bunch of little slaves to the witches. It does work though, and Aiden and the other wolves like step aside and let them leave. Klaus goes to the cemetery to help Elijah and hears Ansel fighting and goes to help. He kills the last guy, and then they look up at each other over the bodies and they're both just like, hold on. He immediately panics and Ansel is just like, Niklaus? Like, so happy to see him. Klaus thinks he must be fake. He's like, you're another one of Esther's tricks. And Ansel's like, Esther, I don't know where she is. I haven't seen her, but I'm real, dude, I promise. He says he woke up 4 months ago, which means Bonnie is still in the prison world, right? I'm gonna find out and I'll be right back and I'll tell you. Okay, so according to the timeline, which is often a little screwed up, Bonnie and Damon go into the prison world in early May. So 4 months later from that point would be like August, September time, depending on how you want to look at it. So it's not quite Thanksgiving and they are still in the prison world. Anyway, Ansel also says that he's been watching Klaus for 1,000 years. And Klaus is like, what the hell, both of you? So Michael and Ansel were just like, watching this whole time. He reaches out for him and like goes to hold him on the face, and Klaus snatches his hand and then sees on his arm the tattoo that he saw when he found his dead body the first time. So he knows it's Ansel and he's touching him and he knows he's real. But then he says that he's nothing to him and he can crawl back to hell for all he cares. And then he leaves and Ansel's just standing there like, damn, dude. Marcel gives Klaus's blood to Gia. She tells him that her whole life she's been running from things, but she believes in what Marcel is doing and she wants to be a part of it, so she doesn't want to run anymore. It gets a little flirty, which is confusing because she was really into Elijah just a little while ago. Cammy calls and is like, hey, I'm fine. I handled Finn. Don't worry about it. I think he likes me and I'm his blind spot and we should use that against him. Haley brings Ollie back to Jackson. Jackson's really annoyed with him. Ollie apologizes anyway and says that he knows he's mad and he screwed up, but Jackson's the alpha and the wolves need him. And then Ollie starts melting from the inside out because the witches were never going to execute him. They put a spell on him so that he would die at midnight. So he melts from the inside out in Jackson's arms, and it's, you know, very sad for Jackson and Haley, but I hated this man. So I'm so glad he's gone finally. Klaus finds Elijah in the crypt, but he is still dead asleep. So he gets him down and he's like holding him up while they're like kneeling on the ground together. And it's so cute. They do like the forehead touch and Klaus is like, brother, Elijah, wake up. What's wrong? And he won't wake up and he's like holding his face. It's so sweet. They're so sweet. Esther comes in and explains that he'll wake up when it's time. And then she's like, also, yes, I did bring Ansel back from the other side because if I turn you into a werewolf, you can be with him and have the father-son bonding time you always wanted. Klaus, though, is like, this doesn't change anything, dude, because I hate you and I'm never gonna work with you or agree with you or take anything from you. She's like, when are you gonna let this go? What did I do to make you hate me so much? He grabs her by the throat and just shoves her into the wall and is like, you came for my child. And it was so good. Yeah, so he's, you know, slamming her up against the wall and he's like, I'll never forgive you. You came for my blood, my daughter. She tries to hurt him with magic. Nah, he stays on his feet. He's bleeding from the nose or from the eyes. One of the two. He starts bleeding and he just stays up and just chokes her harder so that she can't keep doing her spell. He's like, you declared war when you came after my family and I'm gonna make you suffer as only I can, because after all, I am my mother's son. And then he throws her down without killing her so she can't body hop, because she would have done that. It means we get to keep Lenore though, which made me very happy. We get a flashback saying that Freya did not die from the plague. Oh no, she was taken by Dahlia because apparently the deal Esther had to make was like, I will help you get pregnant, but you will have to give me your firstborns. And not just Esther's firstborn, but like every firstborn from then on out, meaning Hope as well. And Dahlia says that if she doesn't hold up her bargain, she'll come back and take all of her children. Finn comes back to the crypt and finds her and is like comforting her, and he's like, don't worry, Mom, he's a fool. You saved the family. If the baby wouldn't have died, then Dahlia would have come back for all of us. Oh no. It's the next day. Let's talk about episode 7. We get a flashback of Elijah and Klaus as like young boys running through the woods chasing each other, except no, don't get excited. It's a freaking dream still. Elijah is like, you know, a young, he's probably like 13 or something, running through the woods, and then grown Elijah shows up in his suit covered in blood and comes up to him and is like, do you understand now? One day only the monster will remain. And then he like attacks himself in the dream. In the real world, Klaus is like above him, kind of like settling him into the bed, whispering to him, trying to comfort him and wake him up. But he is stuck in the spell dreams, not doing well. He keeps trying to head dive on him, but it's not working because Esther blocked Klaus out. So Elijah is like trapped in his subconscious completely alone. And so he gets like violently kicked out of Elijah's head. He ends up like stumbling into Haley's arms because she's coming into the room to check on Elijah. And then they talk a little bit and they find on Elijah's neck this weird rash. So we can assume that when she cut his throat, she put something like in his blood. And that's what we're dealing with now. Klaus explains that back when like they were still Viking era, you know, before the transition and everything, when Michael would like go away when Michael would like go away to battle and then come home, he would be like really unwell for a little while, and so she would knock him out with this certain flower, and then later after he'd like slept and rested for a long time, she would wake him up with the root from the flower. So Klaus is like, idea, I need to go find that. If she was able to, you know, find it and put him to sleep, it should be out there for me to find and wake him up. She promises not to go after Esther while he's gone because he does not trust her to like stay at home. But then once he leaves, she tells Elijah that she's learned a thing or two from their mother. And instead of going after her, she's gonna go after everything that she loves. Jackson burns Ollie's body out in the woods, like on a little funeral pyre that he pushes out to sea, and it's so sweet actually. He sits with him all night while he burns, like just sits down on the dock and watches. So sweet. But then in the morning, Haley comes and Jackson says that it's so disrespectful that none of the other wolves came because this was supposed to be a funeral and he's the only one that was there. She knows that he needs to grieve, and she says that he gave her time when the baby died. So now she's gonna give him time, but he does need to get it together because the wolves need his help. Then Haley takes Aiden with her over to Marcel to be like, hey, what's up? We got Elijah back. Now I want to kidnap Finn. Cammy and Finn are together, and she tells him that she's over Klaus. She doesn't want to see him anymore because she's taking Finn's advice and she's leaving him alone. And then she's like, I actually want a new advisor because you've been getting to know me so well, but I want to get to know you well now too. And Finn is like, oh, well, this is awkward. And she rushes to leave thinking that she's like ruined it and overstepped. But then he stops her and is like, Cammy, wait, do you like jazz? We cut to Davina in a hotel room fixing a spell on a broken mirror. She's like doing a little chant and the mirror is like stitching itself back together. Cole comes out of the shower behind her with his shirt unbuttoned, towel drying his hair because he is a menace. Apparently they've been hiding out for a little while. It's never clear how long. It could have been a week, it could have been a couple days, who knows? But they've been in a hotel together for a while. Nothing has happened though, which Cole is quick to point out and pick on her about, and she is like, well, you know, leave me alone and knock it off with all of that, and just like gestures to him in his entirety because he's attractive. After he agrees to like help her and like kind of, you know, stop flirting and like behave a little bit more, he turns away and falls to his knees in pain, and on his forearm like runes pop up, like carved into his skin magically, because Esther is calling him home. Esther tells Finn that it's finally time to bring Cammy in, and she gives him like a bracelet that he can give to Cammy that will subdue her without causing physical harm, but Finn refuses and says he can do it without that. Klaus is out in the woods looking for the flower. He feels somebody following him. It is Ansel. Ansel says that he's the one that back in the day used to go get the flower for Esther in the first place, and he knows how to hunt it, so he's more than happy to help Klaus. Klaus is kind of annoyed, and he doesn't want anything to do with him, but also he needs to help Elijah, so he agrees. Davina and Cole are heading home. He is in the passenger seat, injured from the thing on his arm, right? She is driving. She's got the radio playing, and he just goes like this and changes the radio. What do I love more than anything? What's that? Voiceless magic. That's right. Oh my God. They talk a little bit about how when the Michelsons were still humans, he was the only one that was a witch like Esther for whatever reason. I don't know if they're ever going to specify that for us, but he was the only one that like inherited the gifts naturally the first time around. And he says that turning and losing his magic is like a big reason why he was so screwed up for so long. I'm sure being he's either the 16-year-old or the 17-year-old, he's a child. I'm sure that didn't help either, and he explains that he spent most of his time with witches, kind of learning from them and teaching them and growing in his power, even though he didn't have it anymore as a vampire. She gets kind of huffy about the whole like Esther sending him to flirt with her thing, and that being really gross and like an annoying start to their relationship. And he goes, "Oh, no, Mom sent me to follow you. The flirting bit was all me." Marcel, Aiden, Josh, Cammy, and Haley meet up together and talk about getting Finn. They're gonna like kidnap him and then hurt him to get information about Esther. Cammy brings dark objects that they can use on him. Ansel tells Klaus that he fought Michael for him. That was why him and Michael fought the night that Ansel died, but because Michael was a vampire and Ansel was a werewolf but trapped in his human body that night, it did not go well and Ansel died. He says that he watched Klaus this whole time because he wanted to be with him, and the whole time he had wanted to be his dad, so getting to watch him from the other side was like one of the only things that made him happy. He says he saw him like climb mountains and spend time with his siblings and have his daughter and like feel her kick in Haley's tummy. He was there for all those moments. Klaus is like, "So where were you when I slaughtered and killed thousands upon thousands of people, Dad? Did I make you proud?" And like pushes him away because you dangle happiness in front of Klaus and he's like, "What if I lit it on fire?" Cole goes back to Esther and initially is like, "Michael's back? What? That's crazy." And she's like, "I know you lied to me about it. Don't frick with me right now." He immediately caves and is like, "You're right, Mom. I did lie to you, but only to protect your plan." And then he just starts lying more. And she believes him because I guess he's that son. Ansel and Klaus find the tree where the orchids that they need are growing, and it is surrounded, like the base of the tree is just surrounded by vervain. They don't know for sure if Esther planted it or not, but like probably she did. So Ansel decides that he will go get it happily for him. And Klaus is like, "Why? Like, why do you care though, dude?" As though Ansel didn't just explain to him in the scene before, "All I've ever wanted is to be your dad. I care about you so much. Please let me love you." Klaus is still not getting it. You have to tell him 8,000 times, and then he's still probably going to tell you that you're lying. Ansel goes so far as to be like, "Use your freaky vampire powers to look into my head, you little shit ass, and then you'll see that I'm telling the truth, and you won't have to deal with it anymore. And then you'll see that I'm telling the truth, and you won't have to doubt me anymore." But Klaus is a chicken shit, so he runs away and is just like, "Get the flower." Cole calls Davina to get her to meet up with him, and while he's on the phone with her, he's got a little silver dagger in his hands, and he's just spinning it, like twirling the blade, and I was like, oh no. But then she gets there, and he explains that Esther wants the steak and has told him to get it from her. She looks at the knife and is like, "Oh, so that's why you asked me to come here?" And he's like, no. All I want is your blood." And again, she looks at the knife and she's like, "So that's why you asked me here?" And he's like, "Girl, can you relax? I need you to open this crypt for me." And he explains that once upon a time, he was friends with a group of Claire witches. Davina's name is Davina Claire. He was friends with witches that were her ancestors. They were like, you know, working on stuff together in this family crypt. But then he got into it with the pretty one, and so they locked him out and said he couldn't come in anymore. So now he needs her to cut her hand and open the crypt. They go inside, and it's this really cool, like, witchy laboratory. He uses this type of magic called chemia, which is kind of like a play on alchemy. It's just like, you know, taking something and transmuting it into something else. He explains that he made a lot of dark objects once upon a time because the dark objects can be used by anybody, not just witches. So that is why Cammy has so many of them. He has a Michelson dagger that he says they can tinker with to make it work on Klaus, and then they'll be able to lock him up in a coffin the way he did to Cole for so long without having to kill him. Therefore, Davina's friends will be safe. Ben and Cammy are out at a jazz club together. They're like having a good time, like talking. She's kind of bringing up his family. He doesn't seem to be too suspicious. She gets a phone call and she's like, "Oh my God, it's the person covering my shift. Give me just a second." She walks away. He sees her walk away. He's like, "Oh, she looks really concerned. I wonder what could be wrong." Somebody walks in front of her and she gets snatched outside. when he goes outside to see what's wrong, she is somehow on the ground being bitten by somebody with a hood on, and when the person turns around, they have the glowy werewolf eyes. So Finn is like, oh my God, a wolf just touched my girl. Before he can fully react and go help her, her body gets snatched as well. Ansel is whittling now, and Klaus looks at him and is like, blades are for killing, you freaking loser. Like, you're making art with your blade. And I really just wanted to slap him in the mouth. I was like, why are you this way? You have been making wood carvings for so damn long? What the hell? Ansel hits us with the fact that he knows Hope is alive, because when they were back in the Viking Age and he would turn into a wolf, he would go sit outside Esther's house to guard baby Klaus. And so now when he turns into a wolf for the past 4 months, he's been going further and further from New Orleans, like waking up farther and farther away, because he's looking for the baby. Finn is absolutely livid that a wolf attacked Cammy, and he calls Aiden and is like, set a freaking meeting. I need to talk to these chuckleheads. So they lead him to the church because he's going to do a locator spell on just Cammy. They trick him into going to the church, and they've got like a whole plan in place to ambush him once he gets there. Also, it was Haley that bit Cammy. Inside the crypt, while Davina and Cole are working, he starts the music once again by snapping his fingers this time, and Davina clocks it and is like, ooh, that was hot. And I'm like, girl, thank you. Thank you. It was hot. He shows her how Kimia works, and like they kind of do a new version of channeling together that's like just a little bit more intense. They light a rope on fire, and then they almost start to kiss. Like they get real close to kissing, but the fire gets too close to her hand and she drops it. When it falls to the ground, it's silver. He made her a new bracelet to replace the one he broke, and he wraps it around her hand all gentle and cute. I'm weak. They wouldn't even have to work hard for me, either one of them. Klaus and Ansel are still out together in the woods talking around the fire. Klaus admits to him that his offer to be a good parent finally is really appealing. He thinks that at one point in his life, he would have absolutely loved to be Ansel's son, but now he doesn't know how to be anything but Michael's son. He tells him that he believes that all Ansel wants to do is help protect his family, but Esther is so awful that she will take that love and warp it and twist it and turn them against each other and ruin it. He whispers, you waited too long to come and rescue me. I can't make the same mistakes about Hope. And then he picks up the knife that Ansel was using to clean up the flour. Ansel is like, no, oh my God, Niklaus, you wouldn't do this. I know you. You would never do this. And Klaus looks him in the eyes and goes, that's the first lie you've told me. And then cuts him across the chest, and Ansel dies in his arms. Klaus is crying, holding his father's dead body and crying. I have never seen a stupider man in my life. Still in the crypt, Davina flops down on the chase and is like, I'm so tired. I really need to go home to Marcel soon. And Cole sits down with her and is like, you know, I don't know how you handled that for so long. Like, I know you must have been lonely because witches need covens, even if it's just a coven of 2. And he just like can't help himself. He's so flirty. It's the accent. It's just bad. Then he covers her up with a blanket and he tells her that soon they're gonna work on the dagger. But first, they have a few things they need to work on together first. Then he whispers as she's like falling asleep, you're gonna like me, Davina Claire, and I'm gonna let you pretend a while that you don't already. Shut up. Finn and Aiden meet up outside the church, and Aiden is like, okay, Cammy is inside on the altar. And Finn is like, hey, you know what I just realized? Those werewolves that escaped, wasn't one of them your brother? And then he like, you know, knocks Aiden unconscious, hurts him really badly, throws him just like full body slam through the doors of the church to be like, I'm here, bitches. Josh comes running in like a dumbass to check on him and put himself right in the line of fire. So then Finn snaps his neck. Haley attacks and he starts force ripping out her heart, like with a spell, dragging her heart from her body. I love the way the magic works in the originals. Good Lord, these spells are fun. Jackson shows up and shoots him though, so he goes down with some arrows in him, and then Cammy rushes out and puts the magical shackles on him that will stop him from being able to use his magic while they're on. Also, she reveals in that moment that she knows he's Finn. Jackson rushes to Haley, and it got me. He's like holding her face and he's like, "Are you okay? Are you all right? I'm sorry I made you wait." It was so sweet. I was like, oh, that's my favorite callback they've done in so long. That was adorable. It's giving now. I didn't like it in the beginning. I'm okay with it now. It's kind of cute. Klaus goes home to Elijah and puts the root on his neck and whispers to him about how their parents are the reason why they're so screwed up, because once upon a time they were innocent. But now Hope is innocent and she needs them to take care of her. So it's okay that they're monsters in everybody else's story, because to Hope specifically, they're the freaking good guys. They're the knights in shining armor. They're never gonna let a damn thing happen to that child. It got a little corny though. He does end up saying like, "The monster in me can only be checked by the monster in you. I need you, brother. Wake up." But it works, okay? In the dream, baby Elijah stakes monster Elijah in the chest and then he wakes up. Haley talks to Jackson about how on earth he found her so quickly. He says that when he was a wolf, like when he was stuck as a wolf, he was really good at tracking her and like watching her and keeping an eye on her. So he guesses like animal instinct, you know, he can still do that even in human form. He reiterates to us what we know from before, which is that he's so excited to know her. And when he was a kid, he was waiting for her and wanted her in his life. She says she's sorry that he ended up with like a reckless tomboy with anger issues. Like she's not the girl that he wanted her to be, like, ooh, yikes. And he says, "You're right, you're not that girl. You're even better," and then walks away. Elijah is cleaned up and putting on a new suit, and we get a shot of him with like the collar unbuttoned and the tie undone. Once again, I am not God's strongest soldier. Don't ask me the color of anything. Klaus tells him about seeing Ansel and how it felt to get to know him and to kind of, you know, relive what he wanted for all those years. He gives him a scroll that he says was on Ansel's body, and it's a charcoal drawing of baby Klaus. Throw me off a bridge. I can't do this. He says that he wanted to trust him more than anything in the world, but he couldn't be absolutely sure that nothing bad would happen to Hope, so he killed him without hesitation. Elijah rolls the scroll back up and is like, "That's okay, brother. You killed him for Hope. You did the right thing." So Elijah's not doing well. They agree that whatever innocence remains, it must be protected at all cost. I'm sure that is gonna be no big deal. Esther finds Ansel's body in her crypt, left for her on a spike, just like the first time he died, and she has a whole mental breakdown over that. Cole takes Davina home, where Marcel catches him putting her to bed. Elijah is being plagued by nightmares, especially about killing Tatia, so like, he's pretending to be okay, he's not. Davina wakes up, smiling at her new bracelet on her wrist, but then she realizes that the steak is missing from her bag, and she's like, "That mother fricker," and she thinks that Cole took it. Cammy is drinking alone at the bar, and Esther comes in and attacks her, and it is so scary. Elijah and Klaus are talking again, kind of regrouping about the fact that Elijah is probably not well. Haley and Marcel rush in, and they're like, "Hey guys, what's up? We brought you surprises. Go downstairs and see." They go downstairs to see Finn and Cole chained up to the wall. We get a Klaus monologue of him trying to convince Finn and Cole to join them. While he's talking, we also see Rebecca off with Hope, like taking care of her in a park. Cole is like, yeah, I would love to. I don't actually want to work with Mom. If you can figure out a way for me to do that safely, sure. Like, why would I argue with you? But Finn is being really difficult because he's a mama's boy. He also thinks that Klaus sent Rebecca away or like hurt her really badly. And he's like, "Until you tell me where our sister is, I'm not gonna give you anything." We go back to the park where Rebecca is with Hope, and we see that Esther is looking for her and has been looking for her and has found her at this point, because the little sparrow swallows, I can't remember which ones they are, swallows? I think they're swallows, are following her. And she sees them at the park and she gets real spooked. Elijah is so unhinged over the fact that Rebecca is in danger that he attacks Finn, like goes over the table and just starts like killing him. Klaus has to yank him off and be like, "My brother in Christ, what's wrong with you? Relax." Elijah's having none of it. He's like, he is a danger, okay? They're threatening Rebecca, they're threatening Hope. I have to kill him. He has to go. It's so funny, and the dynamic shift here is so funny, and I am really thankful that Klaus says to him, like, what is it, opposite day? Since when do you need to be checked by me? What is going on? But then Rebecca calls and is like, hey, mom's after me. I have the baby and we're on the move, but what do I do? Elijah wants Klaus to go to her, but Klaus is like, no, I need you to do it. I have to stay here because clearly you can't be trusted alone with our brothers. Aiden tells Jackson that the wolves are getting really anxious about what happened with Finn. So Haley wants to have a meeting to like set everything straight. Aiden's like, that's never gonna work. They're never gonna give up their rings. Jackson is the alpha though. So when he snaps at him and tells him to do the meeting, Aiden has to agree. Jackson's not doing well, right? Like he's drinking at like 10 a.m. and just kind of moping and sitting in his grief because now Ansel's also dead. And they were getting really close and he had spent, you know, the last couple months like learning from him, and nothing that Ansel told him is like helpful enough to fix what needs to be fixed now. So it's just, you know, rough all around. Davina goes to apologize to Marcel for letting Cole get the steak because now they're in danger. And Marcel is like, oh, no, baby, Klaus has the steak. I gave him the steak and Cole last night when I found him in your room. She's really upset, thinking that Cole is a nice, sweet boy and does not deserve to be manhandled by Marcel. But remember, Marcel, as a baby, like as a little teenager, knew Cole and he tormented him relentlessly. So he's like, you need to stay away from him. He's insane. The Michelson compound, Marcel and Klaus are basically just like, listen, Finn, listen, Cole, either join us or we'll torture you mercilessly until you give in. What's it gonna be? Marcel takes Cole, of course, and the second they're alone, being the little menace that he is, Cole is like, what if you just worked with me instead? What if you come over to my side and together we can overthrow Klaus because you're always going to be beneath him? And Marcel is like, yeah, but you're a sneaky little rat man liar. At least I know Klaus is the worst and I can't trust him. You I almost believe, and then you backstab me anyway, so we're not doing that. And he like stakes him in the hand and Cole screams. Josh admits to Davina that he was part of Marcel taking Cole, and he apologizes and says that he hopes that she doesn't hate him. She says, no, of course not. I don't hate you. I understand. Talk to me about what's been going on. He tells her about Aiden, and she's like, oh my God, you have a boyfriend? Invite him over so I can meet him. She is a sneaky little liar, just like Cole, but Josh falls for it. Klaus picks on Finn, basically being like, you know, the only reason why you're a mama's boy is because Freya died. And when Freya died, mommy leaned on you and she put all her troubles on you and you tried to take care of her in her grief. And that really wasn't fair for you, Finn. It just wasn't fair at all. But now you're a grown man and now you can make your own decisions. And you should really decide to join us. And Finn is like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Klaus says that all he wants to do for the whole family is finally give them a life where they can make their own choices, which is kind of laughable because Klaus is so painfully controlling and it does upset Finn even more. Haley confronts Jackson because she read the journal he kept while he was working with Ansel, and it turns out that there's this werewolf marriage ritual thing where if they unite, like two alphas from two separate packs get together, all the special traits from this group and all the special traits from this group combine, and then the whole pack gets the traits. Meaning that if Jackson and Haley get married, all of the wolves in their pack would be able to turn at will just like her. She's like, I can't believe you didn't tell me this. It's an answer to all of our problems. And he's like, are you stupid? For it to work, it has to be a marriage in every sense of the word. Are you ready for that? And she's like, oh, you mean like every sense of the word? I don't know about that. And he's like, I know. That's why I didn't bring it up. Haley calls Cammy. Cammy is sick in bed, looking rough from whatever Esther did to her, but she answers the phone anyway. Haley needs help looking for the werewolf ritual stuff. They end up in Cammy's secret room going through everything, and while they're in there, Cammy ties her hair up and we see, it's so gross, we see little holes drilled into Cammie's back down her spine. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. Ugh, it was so gross. Aiden comes to see Josh and he meets Davina. She gives them a minute alone in the living room. I'm sure there will be no consequences to that choice. Aiden's really worried about the wolves not listening to what's going on and taking it seriously. Josh reminds him that Marcel is all about loyalty. So as long as Aiden stands up for Jackson and supports him as the alpha, the other wolves will listen to him. They kiss for the first time. It's real cute. And then they're jokingly like, I'm kind of surprised we don't hear clapping right now. Davina, you can come out. Davina's gone, dumbasses. What the hell? Yeah, Davina went to the crypt and I don't know if it's Cole's grimoire or what, but she finds a spell and she drinks a weird little potion. And that can't be good. Marcel's tormenting Cole and he's like, what if I just turn you again, make you into another new little vampire? And Cole's like, okay. And then my mom will just pull my soul from the vampire body and put me back in the body of a witch. Like, big deal. Klaus shows up and stops them and says that he's figured out Cole's weakness, which is that Cole desperately wants to be a part of the family. And Klaus wants to make up for the fact that he slighted him all those years. And it does work because Cole is a needy little brother. Haley calls Elijah and he smiles down at the phone but then doesn't answer when he sees somebody watching him at the bar. He compels the waitress to be like, has anybody come through here that's kind of weird? And she's like, no, sweetheart, just you. And then she pours coffee on his sleeve. So now he has a stain on his sleeve and he starts having weird PTSD reaction to that because remember, he's supposed to keep his hands and his suit tidy. And now, coffee stain, that must mean he needs to slaughter the whole diner. No, I'm just kidding. He's not gonna do that. Klaus is torturing Finn some more and he breaks down and is like, I'm never gonna turn on Mother because Mother loves us more than you're ever gonna understand. And he basically dumps the whole truth about Esther going to Dahlia and needing help getting pregnant and then sacrificing Freya. And Klaus is like, no, Freya died of the plague. And Finn's like, no, you freaking idiot. She didn't. She was taken. Mom gave her up. And if your kid had lived, then Dahlia would have come back and gotten all of us. Do you understand the sacrifices Mother has made to keep us safe? And Klaus is just like, Dahlia would what now? Rebecca gets to Elijah and shows him hope and they hug and he kisses her on the cheek and I can't do it. But then it gets even worse because Elijah holds baby Hope in his arms and I can't. Rebecca says that being with her every day, he says that being with Hope every day must be the most amazing gift. And she's like, oh my God, you have no idea. I feel so human. It's incredible. And it made me realize, did we ever talk about them adopting? Like, did anybody ever suggest that to them? Because what is stopping Rebecca from adopting a human baby and raising it? Sure, you're a vampire. It will die before you unless it decides it wants to be a vampire too. But like, then you could adopt again. You could grieve if the kid's gonna die or stay with you, and then you could adopt again. It just seems like they could have really intricate families. I guess maybe with Klaus being so awful, that was probably never an option for her, but like it is an option, right? Like she could do that. Elijah fills her in on Esther's body switching plan and admits that it is kind of appealing. Like he gets why it would be interesting to do. She spots blood on his sleeve and he sees her look at it and goes, don't worry, we're safe. No, absolutely not. Immediately, Rebecca is like, oh, are we? That's excellent news. The baby needs to be changed. And she takes Hope away from him and quickly goes to the bathroom. But on her way there, she sees that the waitress is still walking around in the diner, but everyone else has been slaughtered and left in the kitchen. The man who was watching Elijah from the from the counter, his eyes are missing. Davina comes to see Klaus to talk to him. Marcel comes rushing down the stairs to stop her. She snaps his neck mid-step and he just tumbles down the stairs. Oh, it was so good. I was like, please do that all the time. That's so funny. Jackson gives a speech to the wolves. At first, they're not having any of it, but then Haley shows up. They go, why is she here? She's not even a wolf anymore. And she goes, aren't I? And then like half transforms her hand and turns it back to her human hand to show them she can turn at will. And then says if they want the same, they need to listen to Jackson. Davina throws Klaus through a wall to knock him out. It does not work, and then he attacks her. She doesn't give up though and just taunts him until he bites her, and then he passes out because she poisoned her blood. She turned her blood into a dark object. How sick is that? That's so cool. Don't even argue with me. Bonnie Bennett would have been doing that all the time. She never would have had to fear a vampire again. Come on. Cole shows up having gotten out on his own, and then as he's trying to be like, Davina, let's leave, Marcel wakes up and is like, you sneaky little snake, we let you out because you're working with us now, tell her the truth. So that pisses Davina off because she thought at least her and Cole were united in the fact that they want to get rid of Klaus, but now he's back on the big brother train, so he doesn't want to do that anymore. Amy shows up and is like, hey guys, there's holes on my back, and I think Esther did some freaky ancient ritual on me, so can we stop the brother drama and talk about mom drama for a minute? I'm in danger. Haley explains the unification ceremony, you know, the marriage to the wolves, and is like, that's what me and Jackson are gonna do. We're gonna get married for you guys, and then you're all gonna have the ability to turn at will, and you don't need your rings anymore, and you can stop working with the witches. Jackson's like, oh, we are getting married? Okay, yes guys, we're getting married. That's what we're gonna do. And Aiden immediately stands up and throws his ring on the floor and is like, then I'm with you. And then all the other wolves follow suit. Cole checks out Cammy's back and is like, ooh, yeah. It seems as though Mother is preparing you to be a vessel. So I immediately knew where this was going, but everybody is like, what? Esther's gonna use my body? That's awful, that's disgusting, why would she do that? Cammy goes straight to Finn and slaps the shit out of him, and she's like, why did your mother pick me? He says that she's beautiful and she doesn't have any more family, so nobody would know that she's missing, and also Klaus likes her, so he wouldn't let anything happen to her body, and she says, like, I'll throw myself in front of traffic before I let your mother use my body like that. And Finn goes, oh, no, honey, you weren't for Mother, you were for Rebecca. The implications of that, with Marcel having dated both of them, I wanted to barf. Back at the diner, Rebecca's pretty worried about Elijah, and even though he's being real sweet with Hope, she doesn't trust him, so she snaps his neck and he passes out on the floor. The group realizes that they're gonna need Klaus to go after Esther, so Davina reluctantly wakes him back up because she knows that she can't let Cammy get hurt. Jackson and Haley have a cute do-over proposal because he always wanted to be the one to ask, so he gets to do that and it's really sweet. And then she jokingly is like, what, no ring? They like each other. Like, there's something going on. Cole promises that he didn't know that Cammy was ever going to be involved. He just thought Finn was looking after her and he didn't know anything else. Klaus says that he actually believes him because Finn did know about it. So he thinks that Esther was like keeping their tasks separate. Klaus says that he knows that Cole thinks that he never loved him, but he really did mourn him when he died, and he tried to avenge him in his own way. Remember when the Gilberts kill Cole and they chop his head off and Klaus is watching from the doorway and he's horrified and crying and so upset? Yes, it's a good scene. This admission from Klaus seems to really touch Cole. I don't know if I trust it though, because everybody's so damn wishy-washy that I can never tell. Rebecca calls Klaus and is like, hey, maybe you shouldn't have sent me Elijah because he's gone off the deep end and he is killing an amount of people that will definitely draw Esther's attention to us. Klaus is very upset because this means that Elijah is more hurt than he thought he was. So he's like, okay, I need you to go to this secret hiding place and I will see you soon. Then Klaus goes to Finn and is like, I've got one more torment for you. Marcel, bring it in. And they roll in Finn's coffin. Finn starts having an all-out screaming, hysterical panic attack, begging to not be put in. Klaus is like, don't worry, brother. I put in air holes this time, and then throws him inside and shuts the door. Finn is just banging, screaming, throwing up. It's so bad. Klaus then is like racing through the house to the front door. Haley runs into him and is like, hey, where's Elijah? There's something that I need to tell you guys. Klaus turns around and is like, okay, you can tell me on the way. Let's go. Haley's like, where are we going? Klaus slow-mo turns back to her and goes, to see our daughter. This was an excellent scene. I love nothing more than Klaus Michelson walking like he's on a mission. That's when he's his hottest, when he's like prowling around. I can't. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you around so soon. Have a good one. Bye.